Hi, welcome you all to Commerce Live, an online platform from UGC NET exams. Today, we discuss one of the most important concepts in research methodology, that is sampling and sampling techniques based on previous year's questions. So, what does sample means? Sample is subset or small part of total number that could be studied. In a research, the researcher must study about a population. So, for instance, a researcher is going to study the perception of SSLC students in Kerala towards online classes. The perception of SSLC students towards online classes in Kerala. So the entire students who are undergoing SSLC course grade 10 is become the population. So that is the population. Really, it refers to the large group from which the sample is taken. The large group about the what the study is all about. And here it is not possible to reach the entire students those who are undergoing SSLC. So here the researcher will do, he will select some part or some units as samples. So sample is a subset or small part of total number that could be studied. So each part or units in a population is sample. And what is the theory behind sampling is induction. It is induction. It was a previous year question, not in UGC exam, in SET exam, state eligibility test. The theory of sampling, that is induction. And what are the techniques of sampling? There are two techniques. One is probability sampling and other is non-probability sampling. So you expect a question from here. Most often UGC may ask, which of the following is not a probability sampling, or which of the following are probability sampling. So that type of questions you can expect. So probability sampling techniques are simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, multi-stage random sampling, and systematic sampling. And what are non-probability sampling techniques? That is judgment sampling, quota sampling, purposive sampling, snowball sampling, and convenient sampling. So we will go one by one. First one is probability sampling. In probability sampling, each unit of the population about which we are about to study. So each unit of the population has a known chance of being selected. In this, when a researcher using probability sampling techniques in order to reach the SSLC students, we really each students having a known chance of being selected. The chance of being selected as sample is known, not equal, is known. Okay. And the first one in probability sampling, that is simple random sampling. In simple random sampling, the probability of selecting, the chance of being selected as sample is not only known but also equal. Each unit in the population has an equal chance of being selected. And lottery, random number table, roulette wheel are the examples for simple random sampling techniques. Then the second one is stratified random sampling. In stratified random sampling, the entire population we are about to study is divided into different groups, subgroups, and each subgroups is called a strata. And in each strata, the units are selected randomly. So suppose in the previous example about SSLC students perception, the researcher may divide the entire population, entire SSLC students in Kerala into 14 subgroups on the basis of district. Okay. And units are selected from each district randomly. That is stratified random sampling. And this technique is useful when the population, the characteristics of the population is heterogeneous. When it is heterogeneous, we need units from different sectors, different groups as samples. So then it is used. So heterogeneous population is split into formally homogeneous strata in stratified random sampling. Or you see the examples given there. Okay. Cluster sampling. As like stratified random sampling, here also the population are divided into different groups, what we call cluster. Then select some clusters as random. I repeat, in cluster sampling, after dividing the population into different groups, I mean what we call cluster, some clusters are selected randomly and studied. In stratified random sampling, not the some stratas are studied. Units are selected from every strata randomly. Here, some clusters are randomly selected. That's the difference. And it is useful when the researcher aims to reduce the cost and time of the research, or when the characteristics of the population is homogeneous. When the characteristics of the population is homogeneous, is similar everywhere, so we need not study the entire groups. Okay, we can study a single groups that can be randomly selected and make a judgment about all other groups, so on the basis of the groups studied. When it is homogeneous, okay, when it is heterogeneous it is not possible. Then we will go for stratified random sampling when the characteristics of the population is heterogeneous. So you look at the example, there are 5 groups and the researcher select the blue and red one. Okay. Then multi-stage random sampling. In multi-stage random sampling, as like stratified random sampling, the entire population is divided into groups. Then again, the groups are divided into subgroups, and this process will be continued until the sample size is reduced reasonably. So this method is useful when the characteristics of the population is too heterogeneous. Okay, so entire population is divided into small groups, then the groups are divided into subgroups, then this process may be continued. Suppose in the previous example, first the entire population is divided into district, then it is divided into taluk, then it is divided into then panchayat. Okay, then random sampling method, simple random units are selected by using simple random techniques from each groups. And systematic sampling, here first units of the population is selected randomly at random, and the rest, the other units being automatically selected according to some predetermined pattern involving equal spacing or interval of units. Suppose there are 100 units, okay, randomly suppose 56, the units number 56 is randomly selected. Then after that the researcher using equal spacing 10 as interval, so 56 plus 10 is 66, then 76, then 86, this way. This may be you have experienced this kinds of sampling techniques in your class. The teacher may asking questions, first units, the roll number 16 may be asked to answer. Then the teacher may using equal spacing or interval. After 16, 21, 26, so we could know teacher using 5 as interval. So that is systematic sampling. Then the second group, non-probability sampling. In non-probability sampling, the chance of being selected as sample is not known. So in this, members of sample are drawn or selected based on judgment or purpose of the researcher. This sampling does not involve random selection. Sample is selected in such a way that the chance of being selected of each units of being selected for each unit within the population is unknown. So unknown chance of being selected as sample. And what are the techniques? Judgment sampling, according to the judgment of the researcher. No further clarification is needed there. Quota sampling, as like a stratified random sampling. This may be a combination of stratified random sampling and a judgment sampling. So here, like stratified random sampling, entire population is divided or segmented into mutually exclusive subgroups. Then units are selected from each strata on the basis of the judgment of the research rather than random selection. In stratified, it is random selection from each group, but here population are divided into subgroups, strata. Then units are selected from strata on the judgment according to the judgment of the researcher. So here the researcher may give some then what do we want to say? They apply some quota. Suppose out of 100, 30 maybe girls and 70 maybe boys, something like that. Okay, for example, in a study, the researcher would select a male and female in the ratio of 40:50. Here the researcher applies quota sampling by giving quota to male and female, and by giving in the previous example, by giving quota to management school and government school, likewise rural and urban students. Okay, so in selecting giving quota to 60 to 40 to rural and urban students, likewise the researcher can give quota. Purposive or convenient sampling, on the basis of convenience and purpose of the researcher, no further clarification is needed there. So snowball sampling is one of the most important one. In this, the research participants, the selected unit, one selected unit recruit the other one. The research participants, the participants of the research may recruit another participants, where potential participants are hard to find. Look at the diagram given there. The first unit may select the second two, then the two may select three each, like this. This will continue. So in this one recorded unit select another unit. When it is used, when the participants are hard to find. Suppose a research study about the freedom fighters. So we may find one freedom fighter who alive. Then after finding that person, we ask him about other participants, other freedom fighters. So from the participant who have been already selected may recruit the another participant. That is snowball sampling. And previous year's questions. A researcher divides his population into certain groups and fix size of the sample from each group. When the size is fixed, it is quota sampling. Then every individual has an equal chance of being selected by this method, that is simple random sampling. So the D is the answer. It is not clear there, sorry. An example of probability sampling is among the four. What is the probability sampling? Lottery method. It is a right example for simple random sampling. Then in which in which a sample population is divided into different strata, and sample is taken from different strata, that is stratified sampling techniques. So a researcher classifies the secondary school students in the state into boys and girls, those who studying in urban and rural schools from among government and private institutions in various revenue district. He uses random digit table to select some of them from each group. At first, the researcher divided the population into different groups, right? Then he applies random selection, that is stratified random sampling. The population information is called parameter, while the corresponding sample information is called statistics. The characteristics of population is popularly known as parameters, and the characteristics of sample is called statistics. Mean, median, mode, standard deviation, these are statistics. Okay. Sampling error decreases with the increase in sample size. So we can reduce the sampling error by increasing our sample size. Thank you for watching Commerce Live. Thank you.